third generation from dentist. She is a very fine investor. She belongs to the business community, BNI. And she is herself a nutrigenomics expert, so she has a lot of inputs to give, but today she is here as a moderator. She will be handling each one of us, and we do not go overboard, over schedule. So that's about. So there are questions that I had asked the entire group to pose for each of the panelists if they would like to answer. And one of the questions, which was partially already answered by Rekha earlier, was asked by Anjali herself. Anjali, are you there? Is she there? Shivani, you can unmute her. Anjali, is Anjali there? Shivani?
Yeah, Anjali is there.
Yeah, Anjali is there. Yeah, Anjali.
Okay, Shivani, you can keep yourself on unmute so that I can at least converse with you.
Yeah.
All right. So, Anjali, there was a question you had to ask for the panel, especially to Dr. Bindu.
Actually,
can you unmute yourself and ask?
Yeah, I have done that.
Okay, Dr. Bindu, actually my question was that this menopause, are we getting this weight gain because of this menopause? Because now I am in my going to be late 40s, okay, and still like 2 to 3 years I'm having my menopause. It's coming, going after 2-3 months, and despite of doing many efforts, exercise routine and my eating habits, I'm constantly not gaining weight but not losing it also. Okay, so I want to know whether it's because of this is a myth, or should I see into other direction now?
Hi, Dr. Bindu. The question is to you from Anjali. I hope you've got the question.
Yeah, I got the question. Very nice question. Every woman is worried about that only. When after hitting the 40s, 45s, everybody is worried of gaining weight. So, as you all understand, the natural age of menopause, we know it's around 49 to 51 years. So, but the changes around the menopause start from 3-4 years before the menopause. Menopause is actually complete cessation of menses for a year. So, around 3-4 years before only your eggs, that is the eggs start reducing. The estrogen hormones get reduced so that your cycles are getting irregular. Sometimes you miss your cycles, sometimes they come early, sometimes they bleed more, all those stuff. So it is not a myth that you tend to gain weight around the menopause. It really happens. But basically the thing is, the low estrogen level can induce some metabolic changes, because see, we were all very metabolically active in the 20s, 30s, our metabolic rate was really high. So whatever you used to eat or everything used to get burned out. But as age progresses, your metabolism of the body slows down. That is one reason for that. Low estrogen contributes. And also there is an entity called insulin resistance, where your insulin levels in the body are increasing. That also contributes to weight gain. So obviously the pear-shaped body, what it was, now becomes apple-shaped. We tell it that way. That is, you tend to put on weight around the waist, the hips, and the abdomen. That is a main worry. But you must have noticed also, women, not only women, men also tend to gain weight around the 50s or so. That is again the slowing of the metabolism. And also genetics also has a role in that. Genetics, that is, if your genes, like if your mom, your dad or your grandparents used to gain weight around the 40 plus or 45 plus, then again it can cause this. Also stress is a factor. So all these play. So what actually you should do, whatever you are doing is in the right direction. That is, you should increase your metabolism, and also your muscle mass also tends to lose. So actually what you should do weight training and exercises so that your muscle mass increases and your metabolic rate increases. So cut down on the carbohydrates, have a high protein diet, a healthy lifestyle. Your sleep should be proper, exercises, all this helps, goes a long way in increasing your metabolism, and then help in reduction of weight. At least you will not gain weight. Okay, I'm clear. I hope I am clear.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Dr. Bindu. You've actually touched a chord amongst all of us. all of us have been lately. I mean, Anjali said she's closer to 40s. She's actually closer to 50s. She's of the
Closer to
same
50,
age.
I said. No, Snigdha, I'm very opposite.
Okay, maybe I am aging. Yeah, maybe I'm aging. You know, a lot of memory issues. You know, even I'm having. So yes, you've touched the chord, right? Yes,
yeah.
each one of us is bothered about. First thing is, yes, suddenly we are doing the same exercises as they were doing earlier. We are doing everything. We are almost walking for the same distance, but still, why is it getting so difficult to lose weight? We are going on despite, you know, eating whatever we were eating earlier, 2-3 years earlier. Now also we are also, you know, and we are ending up adding a lot of you know, and plus of course this lockdown has created a lot of havoc in the exercise regime itself. All right, and all the more the weight gain we can feel even more as of now. So yes, that is so what you said, Dr. Bindu, this is very natural. It is a fact, right, that we would gain weight.
Yeah, we would gain weight, but I would quote my example also. I am also 45 plus, but of
Correct.
late, for the past 6-7 months, I've lost 15 kgs. Snigdha, you should see me now.
Ooh.
Yeah,
Oh,
I had hit my, what you say, says, I was really surprised when I saw the weighing machine during the Diwali. I was 70 plus, then now 71 kg. Now I have come down to 57. So I really like, actually, I am also eating the proper diet, but I cut down on the sugars, the carbohydrates, and I have not gone on a like what you say crash diet or anything, but I'm doing my exercises. I used to, when the gym was there, I used to do the weight training, but with I'm doing body weight training now. So if I can lose weight, I don't think anybody. I am also.
You were hardly overweight anyways, Dr. Bindu, you were hardly overweight. Okay, you've lost weight. I mean, it gives me a lot of hope actually that if you lost so much, that also in the lockdown period.
Yeah.
I mean, it's great to know. But the thing is, you know, let's talking about diet, something which came in. You said you cut down on carbs, you've cut down on sugar. I mean, isn't it natural for this at this time of perimenopausal, the time before menopause actually happens, 1 or 2 years, that's called the perimenopausal. Don't we get actual cravings? You know, am I crazy that I get cravings like these, you know, cravings for chocolate, sometimes the sugar rush, sometimes craving for something at the midnight hour or something. Is that normal or am I really going crazy here?
No, its cravings are quite common. I would put it, it's in the mind. Like actually, first initial few days, I'll tell my experience. I don't know how people relate to it. Initial few days, it was really like I was going around each nook and corner of my house looking for something because like I cut down on sugars and I used to have that craving. But it's natural. After the first 15 days, now you will feel like even when a box of chocolates or cakes or ice creams were placed in front of me, I never had that craving. It's all in the mind. Like I think so.
Sure. I'm not just talking about myself. I don't hardly eat anything. I'm just putting on weight. Yeah, just to menopause itself, I guess. Anyway,
No, but it's true. It's true that when the children are around, you are baking some cake or something like that, and you know the weighing scale is still there, and you want to eat something. So the counterpart is not gaining weight, then it's all the more.
Yeah. You to have a competition, yeah. I don't have. We both are rotund. So it's okay. We all know. Like if you're gaining weight, even I'm gaining weight. So both husband and wife, as long as both of them are gaining weight, it's fine. Or both of them losing, it's fine. Anyways, jokes apart, Rekha, this was the same question is to you as well. Because this is a concern with a lot of people. So about nutrition and other things that would want to please elaborate on this, Rekha?
Yeah, so I completely agree with firstly what doctor explained to us, where you know when we are approaching our menopausal stage, the estrogen level goes down and there's a lot of hormonal changes that happens in our body and our metabolism goes down. However, I would try to focus on the formation of right healthy habits and understanding about nutrition. For example, if we understand that the metabolism has gone down, so what are the things that will help us to kick our metabolism back in space so that we can be in our best shape? So in this COVID time, even I lost 11 kgs of weight because I focused that I was always on the higher side, and but this time I decided that I need to do this, and whatever it takes, I will work upon it. So what I think, what functions best is an understanding about your macronutrients and micronutrients, an understanding about what are the things that increases your metabolism, an understanding of good fats and bad fats. For example, a desi ghee is basically a fat reduction agent. A desi ghee is basically so important while you're menopausing for a better absorption of your vitamin D and B12. And how we can increase. So my take on this question is that we need to understand the biological part of it, and we need to understand how do we answer this with respect to food and then with respect to sleep. Sleep is another integral part where we have to understand that, you know, how your body gets repaired and how your body functions best. You know, in Ayurveda it is said that if you know, between 10 to 12, your reproductive system gets repaired, and between 12 to 2, your digestive system gets repaired. So we also have to look at the other aspect, is how well are we sleeping and what is our sleep pattern. If we have a healthy sleep pattern along with an awareness about the kind of food we intake, we can counter the metabolic rate which falls down, and that's how we can address it.
Yeah, that was a great way. Yes, sleep is such an essential factor which most of the people overlook. They pay a lot of attention to diet. Yes, they eat right. They boost their metabolism by various means, by exercising, drinking more water. You will boost your metabolism. That everybody does, right? Two things I've seen people ignoring is, one is not to treat their mind in the sense is specifically the mind also has to be conditioned in this case. And another thing is sleep. People just ignore. They think they can very well work with 3 to 4 hours of sleep. And sometimes people sleep for longer hours, but it's not a very sound sleep. It's not the sleep in which your body will actually get repaired, right? As you said very rightly, there are 2 hours in which your digestive system gets repaired. There are 2 hours, the first 2 hours in which your reproductive system gets repaired. So that's something really worth noting. Thank you so much, Rekha. Okay, let's take, how about taking certain questions?
Just to interrupt, Zinda, because there are a lot of questions, I think, instead of you asking.
You ask, because I cannot see them.
I'll see that. There is a question from Reshma Khandeshi. Khandeshi. I have a thyroid, then anyhow I gain my weight, but it's constant, not increase and not reduce also. In this case, have regularly due to thyroid, it's hyper. But have irregularly monthly cycles due to thyroid. So is it
irregular?
Yeah,
doctor, this is for you.
Yeah, Dr. Bindu.
Dr. Bindu, it's for you.
I'm supposed to answer, no? Yeah,
yes.
See, this thyroid can be either hyperthyroid and hypothyroid. I suppose the person must be having hypothyroid. Hypothyroidism means the low level of thyroid hormones in the body. Actually, thyroid hormones are required for each and every function of the body, right from your growth, your circulation, your metabolism, your maintaining the menstrual cycles, even the concentration, everything. Everything is dependent on the thyroid hormone. So low level of thyroid, most of the times the thyroid hormones are low due to autoimmunity. That is, there is self-destruction of the thyroid gland which is happening, and the thyroid cells produce less of thyroid hormone. So that in that condition is called hypothyroidism. So the other one where the thyroid hormone levels are high is hyper. So hypothyroidism, everything slows down. So obviously the metabolism is slowing down, and the person becomes like what you say, fat, and they have muscle cramps. Their face becomes rounded, and the constipation can happen. They have menstrual cycles. They can menstrual cycles irregularity. They don't bleed for months, and when they bleed, they can bleed heavy. All these things can be there in hypothyroidism. So obviously in hypothyroidism, the metabolism rate is slowing down. So that is why obviously your fat metabolism is also slowed down. So that's why you are gaining weight. So the trick is to keep the thyroid levels very regular, frequently. If you are on medications, check it at least every 3 to 6 months, and maintain the level of thyroid hormones, and maintain your activity. As I said, the lifestyle has to be changed with at least exercising 30 minutes a day for 4-5 days a week. That is the minimum requirement, and also diet has to be improved. That's it. So you are maintaining your thyroid hormone levels. It's as good as normal people who are not having any thyroid disease.
Right. And how, yeah, I can see the questions right now.
There is
Okay,
one more question is there.
Osteoporosis.
How to deal with PMS, premenstrual syndrome, when it actually becomes close to PMSD, but not clinically diagnosed, madam.
Okay. See, this what you say PMS or like what is premenstrual syndrome is a array of symptoms, right from like people, even the husband or the family knows that this girl or the wife is having going through PMS. That is mostly it is because you all know there are two hormones in the like what you say in the menstrual cycle. The first half of the cycle where the egg is forming is the estrogen hormone, and the second half to maintain the pregnancy is the progesterone hormone. The progesterone hormone is the culprit which is causing this PMS or premenstrual syndrome. So like it can vary from a mild PMS to a severe variety, as you said, PMSD, where it goes to a psychiatric dysphoria. This is premenstrual symptom dysphoria, or where it goes to a psychological aspect. So it can be mild bloating where salt and water retention is the cause for this. Progesterone hormone causes salt and water retention. So that is the cause of the PMS. So people tend to get bloated, the abdomen gets bloated, the breast becomes heavy, and they feel lack of concentration. They may feel irritability, mental confusion, and even throw tantrums in the house. And once the menstruation comes, and after 2-3 days they are okay. So the thing is how to control, like most of the times you don't have to diagnose PMS. The most of the time symptoms itself tells that you are going through PMS, and even we can sense it at home, or even a husband, as I said earlier, the husband or someone in the family can also sense it. So how to prevent this? See, you at least it starts from diet only. Consume foods which are rich in B complex vitamins, especially the B6 vitamins. That is, we say the whole grains. Don't refined products should be avoided as far as possible. Then eat dietary fiber foods rich in calcium content. They can also prevent PMS, and avoid all pickles, all like what you say, achar, papad, and all these things which cause water retention, and refined foods, and like aerated drinks, all these cause, and too much of chai, coffee, all these cause water retention. So on the diet aspect, you have to avoid, especially during the cycle, close to the cycle. This usually happens 7 to 10 days of your menstrual cycle before that. So avoid all foods, and you can do exercises, even meditation, yoga helps. And for water intake also, minimum water intake. Too much of water intake during this period also should be avoided. So I think in spite of that,
thank you so much. In spite of
that, still you are having this, we can have medications like B complex vitamins are available over the counter, then capsules are there, and if it is a severe form, then as suggested, then hormones also can be given.
Yeah, there is another question from Sunaina. She's asking quite some time, how to prevent osteoporosis, which is pretty common perimenopausal and menopausal times, and when to take calcium and what time of the day.
Okay, so menopause is again one phase where your hormones, estrogen hormones, as I said earlier, there is a low level of estrogen hormones that is causing all this osteoporosis, or like loss of bone mineralization. How do you put osteoporosis? Osteoporosis is nothing but loss of bone mineralization. Estrogen helps in building up the bones, and also it can cause loss of estrogen, or less estrogen can cause heart disease also. So that is why around the menopause, women tend to be more osteoporotic and having cardiovascular diseases. So for that, again, bone remodeling has to be started. So how do we start that? So especially we feel that we all are young, energetic, and active in the like what you say 30s or 40s, but after 40s you tend to get slowed down. No, you have to continue with the exercises. Your weight training will definitely improve the bone mass. And after 40, 45, if your diet is not good or deficient in calcium, definitely calcium tablets can be supplemented, and there is nothing like that you should take at this point of the day or morning or night. Only thing is the iron and calcium. If you are taking iron tablets also, it should not be combined along with calcium, because it can prevent the absorption of calcium. So after food, anytime you can take it, and avoid like what you say, iron tablets or any too much sore things before taking calcium. That is it.
Yeah, okay. Thank you so much, Dr. Bindu. And there is a question from our architect here, Architect Veena Dandapani. She says her menstrual cycle started when she was 11 years. Now she's 41 and the periods are irregular. Since my menstruation cycle started earlier, will it end early also? Will it be in the normal 49 to 51 years now?
Okay, that is, people have the myth also that if your mother had menopause at around 51 years, you should also have menopause around 51 years. There's nothing like that. It depends on variety of factors. Even but we have seen those who have early menstruation, that is, if they start menstruation before 10 or 11, they tend to have an early menopause also. But people who are stressed out, lot of stress is there, or those who are living in the urban areas rather than compared to rural areas, or they have some other diseases, these all women tend to have an early menopause. Stresses are then again one factor. We even see in the clinics women who have an early menopause, that is hitting menopause before the age of 40. That is not nice, because it's called premature menopause. Then you tend to have more of heart diseases and bone diseases later on. So if you tend to have cycles which are getting irregular, that is spacing between the cycles is there, or they come early, the flow is getting irregular, then you are definitely in the premenopausal period. But definitely if you want to say menopause has happened, 1 year of permanent cessation or stoppage of menstruation should be there.
Yeah, Bindu, how well answered. There's another question.
Yeah, excuse me. There was one question in between you missed. Can you throw light on urine incontinence?
Incontinence, urine incontinence.
So, Snigdha, if you don't mind, all these questions, I think I have a small 5 minutes. So, I think all menopausal issues are covered in that. So,
yeah, I was about to say that only. Let's, Shivani, give her the rights to share screen.
Yeah.
So that she can show. Let's, Then, Dr. Bindu, what you can do as and when the question that you remember, there's one on, of course, urinary incontinence. And
yeah, you can start sharing now.
Yeah, you have given me the rights. So,
yes.
Files, I have to go to the files and
share screen.
Share screen, no? But then how to. Okay, and
yeah, we can see your Zoom. You can, we can minimize
this. And
you can go ahead. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I can put it on PPT. I mean, display.
Display. I have to put it on slideshow, no?
Slideshow. Yes. Put it on slideshow.
Yeah. So. Yeah, this is all I told. Permanent cessation of menses for 1 year. Natural. See, we all say we are young at 40. So your life actually starts at 40. Don't be depressed that you are 40 plus and so contact doctor.
Our life has started at 40 only.
Yeah, your life, and you're healthy and active at 60. Actually, you become old after 80s only. So nobody is old anyway. So the menstrual patterns, if somebody was asking, there can be scanty menstruation, irregular menses with or without excessive bleeding. So the point where you have to contact doctor is whenever you have extremely heavy periods, and if it is lasting more than 7 days per period or more than 2 days longer than the usual period, and interval is less than 21 days, or if you tend to have spotting in between periods or bleeding after sexual contact, then again you'll have to contact the doctor. So the problems are hot flushes. So those who are nearing menopause, they must be having the heat waves and the increase in heart rate, and usually occurs at night. It's a temporary phenomenon and usually it disappears by 6 months to 1 year. As I told, the estrogen level is the cause. So what you can do, avoid spicy foods, use light cotton clothes, and you can be in a comfortable atmosphere with AC on and all those when you're having those, and avoid alcohol, caffeine, and if you're taking some other drugs, that can also cause hot flushes. So it usually disappears over time. Sometimes it is too bad, so you'll have to get support in the form of hormonal treatment. So this was somebody was asking about the genitourinary symptoms. So genitourinary symptoms can also occur due to menopause. There can be vaginal dryness, night sweats, and so basically, sorry, this is I think automated. So modify the lifestyle. The women can use vaginal lubricants. Sometimes we may even give estrogen supplements. Creams are there. If they have this, dyspareunia is nothing, pain during sexual intercourse, and that is called dyspareunia. And urinary symptoms. People can have burning sensation. They can have incontinence urine and recurrent urinary infection. So for that also, as usual, the hygiene has to be maintained. Drink lots of fluid. Kegels exercise can be practiced. That is nothing but drawing your vaginal and anal muscles up, holding for a count of 10. Everybody must be aware of the Kegel exercise, I suppose.
Yeah.
So estrogen creams can be supplemented. And see, psychological problems, somebody was asking that. Yes, you get anxious, you are irritable, you are depressed. Mood swings can be there. So basically, what all you are all doing, taking part in activities, meeting friends. So you have to adopt a healthy lifestyle, eat healthy foods, laughing clubs, positive attitude. That's what I see all of you doing, positive attitude towards life, and the relaxation technique. So the special concern in women is that those women who are having a family history of breast cancer, or more than 60-year-old women with lump breast, obese female, all these are high-risk candidates for breast cancer. So what you can do is, you can do a self-examination. Like with your hand, you can palpate your breast, and if you feel something, you can meet the doctor. And if required, they may suggest a mammography here. So women from age 20, you can teach your daughters also to do self-breast examination. And best time is to do about a week after your periods end. And for menopausal age, do it same day women. These are the methods I will briefly say. This is stand in front of glass mirror. You observe the size and shape, and you can check the breast with your arms folded down. Or these are the four ways. You can check either way. You can just sleep and with one arm, or in the shower while you are showering, you can check with your hands. And these are different ways to check the breast. So, and also don't forget to check the nipples, whether any discharge is there or not. So these are the methods. Like you can lie down also and check. You can check under the shower, and feel your right breast with the left hand and left breast with the right hand. There are three methods. Either you can go round in circles, or you can from up down you can do, or in radially also. Three methods. Okay. Then the second thing is cervical cancer. These women, those who have more deliveries, low socioeconomic classes, multiple partners, so they are at high risk. So Pap test, I think everybody must be doing. So you are supposed to do the Pap test. Pap test is nothing but some cells are collected from the womb, neck of the womb, which we call the cervix, and tested to see any precancerous conditions are there, so that we can give the treatment early. Okay, so after 65 years, you need not do testing for cervical cancer. Every 3 years only you need to test yourself. Okay. And as osteoporosis, so which are the bones which are affected? The forearm bones, the spine and thigh bones. You must have heard women falling down in the bathroom and having those fractures and all those. So to prevent that, what you should do daily exercises, walking. Smoking, caffeine has to be avoided, calcium supplements sometimes. That is why you should all check your BMD, or bone mineral density. The machines are there available. So if you check the bone mineral density, whether you are already osteoporotic or in the pre-osteoporotic phase, you can come to know, so that we can take the supplements. So thin and underweight women have weaker bones. And also the heart disease. That also happens with menopause. So you adopt a healthy lifestyle, regular exercise. So all is in your diet and exercise. And sometimes if you are so prone, that is if you have an early menopause, what happens, we tend to give hormone replacement therapy to prevent these side effects in the heart and bone. So preventive health checkups are a must. So they will prevent diseases. People are worried to go for health checks. I understand, because you will find out some illness and you have to treat those illness. But then, no, I would advise at least have your breast check, the pap, and routine cholesterol, the sugars, everything can be checked. Minimum health checks in the form of blood sugar, lipid, renal function, and ultrasound, bone mineral density, and pap smear. All these things I think women need to have. Also, men also have something called andropause. So that is, but they hit it later, around 15-20 years later than women. They also have this physical, sexual, and problems. So so that's it. I think we can stop the screen sharing, and if any questions are there.
Shivani, if you can see the questions, I'll take. Okay, wait, I can also see. Okay, I can see. Okay. There's a question about urinary incontinence. Of course, you talked about Kegel exercises, right?
Yeah.
Handle, urinary incontinence is Kegel exercises only, basically to strengthen the pelvic floor muscles.
Yeah, but sometimes it is beyond that. So if your urinary incontinence, that if you feel the uterus has come down because of deliveries, so what happens, the angle between the uterus and the bladder gets distorted. That's why you are getting the urinary incontinence. And also women tend to have weak bladders. That is later on around the 45, 50 plus, or even that. Beyond that, what happens, your capacity of the bladder, that is even a small amount of urine can irritate the bladder. That is called overactive bladder. We put it overactive bladder. So some women after 50 or 55, you feel like you're going to the loo very often, very frequently, but the amount of urine passed is very little. So people relate that to urinary infection. It's always not urinary infection, it's an overactive bladder. So for that also you have to train yourselves. That is, bladder training is required. One is you reduce your weight. Weight is again the culprit. If you reduce your weight, overactive bladder can be prevented to a great extent. Then you have to avoid, your diet has to be proper, like spicy foods and all those stuff. Smoking has to be avoided, and your coffee or tea intake, if you're too much on the coffee or tea intake, that also has to be stopped. These are the primary methods. Then secondary method is like you have to do bladder training. That is, you have to hold your urine for long hours. Suppose you are going every half an hour or 1 or 2 hours, so make it voluntarily stretch it to another 10 minutes. That is, hold the urine, and like that you can improve the capacity of the urine. Sometimes with that also, if it's not happening, then definitely doctors might give you some medications.
Yes. Now this question can be answered by Rekha. There is a question I want to ask. When there is a thyroid metabolism and stamina gets poor, when there is a PCOD also, so we are told to do exercise, but for that, how can we bring more stamina to support that rigorous workouts?
So so basically with hypothyroidism, lethargy is one of a very common thing that happens. But there are small steps that you can take towards feeling energetic and enthusiastic about your exercise. But before that, not feeling up to exercise is not as much about your only hypothyroidism. It is also about, what's your amount of intake of vitamin D. So like a vitamin D deficiency or a hypothyroid is a bit like a chicken and egg story. That whether कि आपका vitamin D कम है, इसलिए आपको ऐसा हो रहा है कि आपको hypothyroidism है, इसलिए आपको lethargy हो रही है. But so it is very important for you to understand कि vitamin D की deficiency भी आपके लिए एक बहुत बड़ा reason हो सकता है, which is causing the lethargy in you if you are suffering from PCOD, and it is very natural for you to have a low level of vitamin D if you are having already a PCOD. So what can you do about it? What you can do about it is that you must include some essential fatty acids like homemade ghee and coconut oil in your diet, because they are essential fatty acids. And you must know that vitamin D is a fat soluble vitamin. So when you have the requisite amount of fat in your body, it gives you energy, and the vitamin D that you're getting naturally from whatever you're eating or the supplement that you're eating also is adding to the energy levels. Number 2 is, kaju. Kaju is a superfood. It is so rich in micro minerals and ions. It is very, very important, and it also makes you feel good. So, basically, you can have certain things which will increase that. Another very, very important thing is sleep. Sleep is the biggest hormone regulator. If you've had a good sleep in the night, you will naturally have better energy levels next day morning to work out and have the energies. And last but not the least, that we must have a minimum of 150 minutes of exercise every week. Because when you exercise, it keeps, keeps the metabolic diseases at bay, including your thyroid also. So, so get your, these are the 4-5 steps which you can address with respect to energy and with respect to be enthusiastic about your exercise while you are facing PCOD.
Can I add one more point? Because as you said, Dr. Rekha, like hypovitaminosis or vitamin D deficiency is very common in PCOD. But see, whatever forms you are eating, actually it is the inactive form. It is converted to the active form only with sunlight. So more you are in the, like you are not going out and you are confined to the house and you are using the AC, and that is what happening, because it's like it has also become an epidemic sort of, because we see lots of people with vitamin D deficiency now. Because
I think more than 90% would be this deficient. So I say that 150 minutes a week, to at least begin somewhere. And also adding the, also adding of the essential fats in your body, because they are fat soluble vitamins. So while, we are running away from the ghees and the coconut oils and but when we have that adequate amount, whatever vitamin D we are getting, at least it gets assimilated into our system.
Actually, about PCOD, not many people are aware of the PCOD. Dr. Bindu, can you throw some light on PCOD? What is it? What causes it? And the symptoms?
Yeah, put very simple. PCOD, the full form everybody must be knowing. It is polycystic ovarian disease. So there is PCOD and PCOS. So there are 3 things. PCO is polycystic ovary. That is, many of the times symptoms are not there. Just when you do an ultrasound, you see polycystic ovaries. And PCOD is polycystic ovarian disease, where symptoms also come. I will come to that. PCOS is polycystic ovarian syndrome, where a variety of syndromes happen. So it is it's a hormonal disorder which is affecting the ovaries. So it can be like genetic also. So if your mother or sister is suffering from PCOD, you are more likely to have PCOD. And it is affecting around 10 to 15% of the reproductive population. So what happens in PCOD? We all know that eggs mature and ovulate around the 14-15 day, then you menstruate. In PCOD, because of the hormonal changes, what is happening? The eggs are not getting mature. They become small cysts. And that is why, since you are not ovulating, you are not menstruating, or your cycles become irregular. So polycystic ovarian disease is nothing but the immature eggs which are seen in the ovary. So that is why the name comes, polycystic ovary disease. So what are the symptoms? So main symptom is menstrual irregularities. That is, you have irregular cycles, you don't bleed for months, sometimes you have scanty menstruation, and when you bleed, you may bleed heavily and it doesn't stop. So it starts in the puberty also, and it can be going through till the menopause. So there is no one stop. And other symptoms are, you can have skin problems, because these women have insulin resistance. The insulin resistance lead to obesity. That is, the insulin is there. Insulin is a growth hormone. So high levels of insulin will increase your obesity. But this insulin will increase the androgen hormones. That is why these women have pimples around the face. Then they have abnormal hair growth. That is around the, like they have around the chin, then the mustache area, around the breast, the legs and all. They have abnormal hair growth. That is the skin symptoms. I told about the menstrual symptoms. I told about the skin symptoms. And these women have difficulty in conception. That is 15-20%, because they don't ovulate. Obviously, they have to run to the doctor and take treatment for conceiving. Then there is one aspect called depression. Depression is very common in PCO women. Why? Because obviously they are worried about their contour, and they are, like what you say, obese, and they have all this abnormal hair growth, and also psychological. And these women have sleep problems also, because they are obese. They can go into sleep spells, and they have snoring. So what worrisome is the latter part, that is around the menopause. What happens because of this hormonal changes? Again, these women are more prone for high blood pressure, diabetes, cholesterol deposition. They have this because they don't bleed for months together. The uterus lining gets thickened, so they are more prone for cancerous changes of the uterus. So all these, it's like that is the extreme end, which I told, polycystic ovary syndrome. So there is no one-stop treatment for that. Today I give you medicine, and tomorrow you are cured of the PCOD. There is nothing like that. You have to really work hard. You can say lifestyle modification or diet or exercise plays 70% in bringing back your polycystic ovary condition to normal. It's not that everybody should bleed 28-30 days cycle or 3-4 days a month only. There is nothing like that. You have a unique pattern. So even if you bleed every 2 months, 10 days, 15 days, it's delayed. And if you are maintaining your weight and diet and exercise, that is all right. So at least you should bleed every 2 to 3 months to prevent all these changes. So PCOD is a very common condition. If I'm in the OPD, I'm seeing out of 10 patients, I may be seeing 3-4 with PCOD now. It's a very common condition. So as everybody agrees, and we all agree, lifestyle modification is a thing. Sometimes, and treatment is not on a single condition. If the person approaches me for menstrual problems, I treat them for menstrual problems. If they approach me for fertility issues, I treat them for fertility issues. For the skin problems, you have to take treatment on the skin problems have to be treated. And overall, the main goal stay of treatment is lifestyle modification. You have to reduce even a 10-15% of your body weight if you are trying to reduce. If you are 80 kg, even if you lose around 8 kg, that is 10% is more than enough to control the PCOD.
Wow, that was a great pointer, Dr. Bindu. These are all things we all have heard, read about, but in a nutshell, you've explained them all and so efficiently. Dr. Bindu, thank you so much for your contribution here.
Yeah, there is one more question that is, it is seen that the itching near ovary, I don't know what exactly means. It is on the stomach or internal organ, I don't know. The itching problem is seen after menopause. So that is a common issue. That's what she told.
Yeah, that is
talk about your skin problems.
Yeah, definitely. So menopause, I put it, skin problems can also be there. What happens because of the low estrogen level, you have dryness. Okay, you have dryness around the private parts. So that is again one cause which can lead to itching. And again, there are some conditions like lichen sclerosis. I don't know how I'll explain the medical term. Or actually, what happens? Because you lose the fat pad around the private parts. You lose the fat pad and it becomes thin and papery and scarry, all those. Though this is again due to low estrogen condition. So all these causes itching around the private parts. So if you are diabetic, again itching can be due to your yeast infection. That you have to rule out. If you are obese, then again this yeast infection can cause itching. Or even without any skin diseases, you can have itching around in the menopause. That is because I said it is a low estrogen which causes the skin dryness, the thinning. Sometimes the skin conditions are there. So we can give a steroid based cream. Actually, we give it, first we give it 3 times a day. You must have all heard of Clobate, and some women may be using also clobetasol, propionate. We say that's a steroid cream which we give, and it can be used 3 times a day initially, then gradually it can be reduced to 2 times a day, then once daily. So you can use for 3 to 4 months. So at that time, if this is only for that condition where dryness and thinning and scarring is causing, so actually you should meet the doctor. She or he will be able to find out what exactly is the cause. But that is a very common condition. People around menopause do have itching.
Itching is also, doctor, due to high sugars also?
Yeah, why I told you, this candidiasis or yeast infection, we put it that way. That is the that is a fungal infection. Yeah, it can cause because with high sugars, fungal infection can occur.
Yeah, that was something I have observed in some patients. That's where I just wanted to point it out. That was really nice of you to explain it in so many details and in a very crisp manner. That was there.
Yeah.
And
now I think we should come to the mental health now, because she already talked about the menopause and depression part. So I think Snigdha is the right person to deal with that. But before that, I would like to ask the HRT treatment, that is hormonal replacement therapy. So how and when it is indicated?
Okay, hormonal replacement therapy, like previously people were so worried to take hormones, like everybody has the thing, because so many studies were there which showing that the WHI study and all, they were showing that women who took hormones after the menopause, they had increased like breast cancer and heart diseases. Actually, if it's definitely indicated, hormone replacement therapy has to be given. So if women are hitting menopause, as I said, prematurely, that is below the age of 40. So below the age of 40, if women are going for menopause, then definitely we have to supplement them with hormones, because we want to prevent the long-term effects of menopause. That is, they should not have heart disease or osteoporosis. Then these women may have some chromosomal abnormalities, or some women have some syndromes which are causing this premature menopause, like Turner's and all those. So definitely in those women we have to give. And in around pre and perimenopausal women, who actually we tell them about the diet. Madam must be aware diet rich in soy proteins and grains like moong and chana, all these, and also the yams, tubers. You must have all heard and seen the elders taking all the roots and tubers. These are actually rich in plant products, plant estrogens. Okay,
phytoestrogens. Phytoestrogens.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, yam is suran.
Yeah, suran.
Suran, arvi, all those things. That's what
all
root
those
vegetables.
Things. So previously people used to consume all those. So these are all around, especially around elders, especially around after the fast and all those. So these are all rich in phytoestrogens. So we definitely first see the diet part. Around that, as I said, soya, and because we can take it with chapati or something, the soybeans, or then this phytoestrogens. If still, if she's not able to get over the menopause, some women have so bad hot flashes, or they go into severe osteoporosis. So we might have to give hormone replacement therapy in them, or so it is very safe. Only thing, you will have to get a preliminary checkup of yourself. That is, your cholesterol levels, your sugars, your breast has to be checked, and pap smear, all these things if done, and if they are normal, definitely you can start hormone replacement therapy, and it can be continued till your natural age of menopause is there. So that is very normal. You can continue it. Yearly health checkups is that what is that required. And if you have any side effects with that, then we will, because we give a very low dose hormone replacement therapy. So it definitely can be given. There is no contraindication to that.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Bindu. Such an informative, way of speaking. And in such a short time, you've enriched us with so much of knowledge. I am not saying we did not know, but we knew it in bits and pieces. I'm sure each one of you is extremely grateful and thankful for the way you have explained things, and in a nutshell you've explained so much. Thank you so much, Dr. Bindu. I'm sure you have a very busy schedule.
Thank you for taking the time out. Thank you for your kind words. Yeah, thank you.
And I was just wondering, because there's something that I need to take. If you need to hear what I do and how do I handle this, you can. Otherwise, if you have some patience or something, of course, Dr. Bindu, you're free to leave because you're very particular about starting on time and ending on time. I have some
7:30 onwards now. I 8 o'clock because it's maids are not there, so 8 o'clock I have something else lined up. So
it's okay. It's okay. That's what I'm saying, Dr. Bindu. In case
your permission, thank you very much. It was a very nice interactive session. Thank you, Snigdha, for inviting me. Thank you. Shivani, and thank you all. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Bindu.
Thank you, Dr. Bindu. Very informative.
Thanks for your precious time, Doctor. Appreciate it.
Now, I wanted to each one of you has been hearing about nutrition. You've been hearing about physical workouts, everything. There is something which is extremely missing, and most of the people miss out is your mind. That is, all of these first start in your mind. All these issues. See, the thing is, yes, there is a PCOD. That's a physical symptom. Somewhere it started a number of years earlier than that. It first started in your mind, and later on chronically, because you never paid attention to a particular issue, it culminated into a PCOD or a fibroid or a cyst or anything of that sort. Let's understand that it's very much needed that we also understand the mental aspect and emotional aspect of issue. All women, said and done, all of us are extremely emotional. Women are said to be more emotional than men. We cry at things, we feel more, we care more. Definitely, we are prone to certain issues more than what men do. So there is something, a small mental exercise. I want each one of you to understand basically the connection between body and mind. Are you all ready for it? Can I say yes? Can I see a thumb? Are you ready? All right, let's do that. Okay. I just wanted to, with this exercise, I just wanted to bring forth a very important thing. Whatever goes on your mind affects your body. Vice versa is also true. What you do to your body affects your emotions and feelings also. Okay. So let's do an experiment to prove. You yourself would know this, right? I want now, see, there are two things. I want each one of you, there is not all the time that you are always happy. There are sometimes you feel little low. At times before periods are depressing, we get irritated. Okay, we sometimes are prone to anxiety, a lot of anxiety at times, a lot of depression. So I want each one of you to take the identity of a depressed person. Means act out as if you are depressed. All right. So when you are depressed, we have Sudha, an excellent actor here. All right, all right. So each one of you will take the identity of a person. You have to behave as if you're depressed, right? You're not good. You're not feeling well about yourself. So just take in the identity of a depressed person. How does a depressed person sit? Is it like this, right? He look down? A happy person looks up. A depressed person always will look down. Let's adapt the body language of a depressed person. First of all, tell me one thing. Is it easy to become depressed? Right now, I'm just telling you to act as if you're depressed. Is it easy? First of all.
No.
Even if you act out in the body, do you really get depressed in the mind? You don't. It's not easy to get depression. It's not easy to get into depression. First of all, saying that there is a difference between saying I am depressed and I have depression. If I say I am depressed, I am talking of me and depression being one and the same thing. And when I say I have depression, the person and the problem are separate, aren't they? I have means I am a normal person, but temporarily I am suffering from depression. So there's a difference, right? The feeling changes. When the emotion changes, the feeling will also change. So instead of saying I am depressed, say I am not suffering from depression, I have depression. That means it's temporarily, it will go away. There's one way to describe, when one describes it. Okay, so let's do that. Let's take on the identity of a depressed person, right? So I want all of you to come on, look down as you are depressed, sit like this as if you're really depressed, at least in body be depressed, okay? And I want you, before that, please unmute your audio because I want to hear those words. Each one of you, Shivani, you can unmute all. I hope all of you can unmute the audio, and please ensure that there is no background noise for 5 minutes. All right. So I want all of you to unmute yourself All right, and get into the identity of a depressed person. So keep your hand like this, look down, your shoulders down, all of them stoop down, and now say just 3 words. Say, I am powerful.
I am powerful.
I'm powerful.
Okay.
Sita is laughing.
Does it have any power?
No.
Yeah, does it have any power? Come on. Do you sound
powerful?
No, not like this. Not looking up and saying I'm powerful is different, right? You got to look down. You have to take on the identity of a person. Act as if you're depressed. When you are depressed, how do you behave? You look down, you sit like this. And now say, looking down, your shoulders down, and say, I am powerful. Say that again. All right, great. Very good. So all of you remember your voices? All right. Now look up. Take on an identity of a happy person, a normal person who feels good about himself or herself, who feels great about life. And now say the same 3 words, I am powerful.
I am powerful.
Could you make a difference in both of your voices yourself?
Yes.
Whatever was said, the word which were said, I am powerful, were powerful, the same words in both cases. Words were, I am powerful only, right?
Yes.
In the first case, because you were depressed, the same power was not visible, was not heard in your voice, right? And in the second instance, what happened? When you were looking up, you were cheerful. When you say the same words, when you say the same 3 words, I am powerful, they hold so much of power. See, your voice sounded cheerful, you sounded cheerful, your entire body language I could see on the screen was cheerful, right? So, 2 points that I wanted to make is, 1, is it easy to get depressed? No, it's difficult to be depressed. So how do people take on depression and anxiety that easily in their lives? That's 1. 2, however good the things may be, however great circumstances may be, when you don't feel good, the best of the things do not sound good also, right? That's one thing. So you may have the best of comforts, you may have the best of powerful things, you may have the best of energy, but you will never make use of that energy. Right? So that's how they sound very different. Now did you enjoy this exercise? Do you have anything to add on this, whatever I said? Sarita Warrior is smiling away. She's very powerful, I know.
Yeah. Hello, ma'am.
Hi. Does anybody have to add on to this exercise? I have something else as well. Hi, Anjali. Anybody else has to say anything on this? Yeah. Is there any other conclusion that you wanted to draw on this exercise?
Actually, when you are depressed, sometimes because of some reason, okay, I think after that depression goes, okay, in 2, 3, 4, 5 days, you become more powerful. I felt this. You become more powerful. You know how to fight that. How to fight it. So sometimes that small depressions helps you to make powerful. I feel that.
That is true because first of all, see, depression, getting depressed over and out is not an issue actually, really speaking. The thing is, how long are you staying in that state? If you stay on a state for too long, more than what you should, it's not that the world's best, happiest people are never depressed. It's never like that. We spend so many years of our life, 365 days we have in a year. All 365 days, 24/7, we cannot be in one state of happiness all the time. There are times people hurt us. There are times we feel anxious. There are times we feel unhappy also. There are certain things which don't happen to our liking and which is beyond our control. So it is very much possible to feel low at times. The problem is not about feeling low. The problem is how long are you staying in that low state? How long is important. 1 day, 2 day, 3 day, 4th day, 5th day, it becomes an issue, because the longer that you stay in depression, the neural pathway of your brain is short circuited. Now it starts recognizing. See, for a habit to form, it takes minimum 7 days. So if I brush with my right hand, now if I have to start brushing with my left hand, if I do continuously for 7 days, it will become an habit. If I continue for 14 days, it will become a little better habit. And if I do it for 21 days, you will please mute the audio, Shivan. If you continue for 21 days, it will become a lifetime habit, it's said. Anything which is repeated continuously for 21 days becomes a habit for lifetime, right? But, so what happens is, if you stay for, let's say, 4 days, 5 days, 7 days being low, it becomes a habit. To the mind, it becomes a habit, and habits, you know how difficult they are to come out of. So do not, that's what I'm saying, if everybody feels low at one point of time or the other, how long do you stay? 5 minutes, 10 minutes, half an hour, 1 hour? Come out of it, change the state. Now, I will also explain you how do you change the state. For example, if you are feeling low, I explained something. That's why I gave each one of you an opportunity to tell me, is there anything else that you wanted to ask, have a different inference here, conclusion, a different conclusion. One conclusion is, whatever is in my body goes on in my body. Means if I change the state of my body, it changes the state of my mind. Right? The reverse is also true. So if I need to change the state of my mind, I need to make a change in my body. That's it. That is why we feel very good when we dance. Because we change state, right? We are changing state from at one state our mind is to another. When we dance, what we are doing, we're changing our body state from one state to another. We make movements, right? So that is also true. People don't know that the reverse is also true. So the easiest way to come out of depression when you feel very low, I'm telling you, the easiest way to do is change your body movement. It's as simple as, you're sitting right now, change your state of body, means get up. If you're up, then you lie down. Do some movement of the body to just change the state of the body. When you change the state of the mind will also change, because both mind and body are connected. So easiest way, children, when they are depressed, when they are not, when they are anxious before the exam, you will see them always, they will look down and talk. Or when they are studying, or at times if you see children or anybody who is looking down, depression, the first way to make out a person is depressed, the person always looks down. He never looks up. All right, because to the future he cannot look, he will always be dwelling in the past. So he'll be looking down or sideways all the time. So in this case, always make the person look up. It's as simple as, if you're looking down, okay, this is the state of depression. The moment you look up, your body state changes. And once your state of body changes, the state of mind has to change. Whatever happens in your body is followed by the mind. Similarly, whatever happens in the mind is followed by your body. So simply, I'm telling you, it's a simple way to come out of depression or a depressive state is just get up and do something. Go. You want to go for a walk, go, but do something else. I mean, if every time if you're standing up and you're feeling low, you then sit down. Do some extraordinary movement of your body, your mind, the emotions will follow. You will never feel all the more bad about it. I hope this thing is very clear. It's a very simple technique, but this is the best technique to change your state and can be done anytime. So what is the key factor is, how long are you in depression? Don't be in depression for more than 10 minutes. Don't feel sorry for yourself for more than 10 minutes or 5 minutes. It's okay. Grieve about it. You feel bad. It is natural to feel hurt. Good. Feel bad. Okay. You can abuse whosoever you want to. Kitna gali dena hai, de do. 10 minutes, that's it. Timer लगा के 10 मिनट के बाद just stand up, do something else. Want to dance, dance. There will be an immediate change of state of mind, and you will find what nonsense was I doing? Why was I thinking that way? Right? So this is a simplest activity that you can do. Another a very simple. It's a self-hypnosis exercise, basically for anybody who has hot flushes. Hot flashes, basically, you feel suddenly very warm, the body, the temperature suddenly rises, your cheeks start burning, you suddenly start sweating a lot. Even when the AC is on full blast, you feel extremely hot, right? So are there people who are, I suffer, I do have this at times, I have this hot flashes. So if there is anybody else who suffers from the same hot flashes, we can do an exercise. And if nobody suffers from it, then it's fine. Each one is good. Can we do that exercise? Say a thumbs up if you want to.
We must.
All right.
We must do, because we may face it in future.
You may. I mean, that's, come on. Yeah. Facing it in the future, come on. I wish not. I wish nobody does, but it's such a natural thing, because it's basically your estrogen. When estrogen levels go down, a lot of things happen. All right. There are certain things which we cannot control, as progesterone is responsible for your PMS. And estrogen is responsible for all these hot flashes and other things like that. And since these are such natural things, you cannot blame anything, right? You can't blame yourself. You can't blame circumstances. So nothing else. You have to grin and bear it most of the times. Okay. But this is a very simple hypnosis. It's a simple visualization. When I say self-hypnosis, is something, a visualization which you can do it on yourself. All right. Anybody is going through hot flashes right now? Feeling hot? Okay, have you ever heard anybody calling, some people say, see, it's not necessarily always hot flashes. One of these people also call it that I have a lot of brain fog, a lot of confusion. I don't remember where I kept the things, and suddenly I can't remember, I just go blank. This is also due to low estrogen. It happens very frequently, it happens, okay? So it's not necessarily that everybody will have hot flashes, there'll be other associated symptoms also. So it's a simple exercise. Of course, all these exercises, all my visualization, you'll have to close your eyes. All right. There's nothing that you have to speak. Just do it as I say, and you will come to know. All right. Now, this is basically for reducing the temperature of the body, the hot flushes that you're feeling. Now, visualizations are such exercises where we basically are talking to our subconscious mind, which does not know right from wrong. And whatever picture you will show to it, now it will believe in it, and it will go ahead and do the task for you. All right. So all of you just close your eyes. I want you to be not disturbed for at least 3 minutes. All right. So just close your eyes and take in three deep breaths. Inhale very deeply and exhale. Don't force any thoughts out of your mind. Whatever comes naturally, whatever thoughts come naturally to you are fine. Second time, take it in. Inhale deeply. Take a deep breath. And finally, one more time that we will do with the feeling that all good things are coming to me. As I exhale, as I inhale, it's all the good and the positive feelings that are coming to me. And as I exhale, all toxicity, all the bad things of my body are going out. One more time. As I inhale, do it with the feeling that all good things are coming to me. As I inhale that breath in, and as I exhale out, all toxicity, all chemicals that I do not want in my body are going out. Last time, inhale with a feeling that all good things are coming to you, and exhale with a feeling that all toxicity is being thrown out of your body. Be completely relaxed in body and mind. Try not to think of any thought, and don't also try to force any thoughts out of your mind. Let the thoughts come in and go. Do as you please. Sit with your back supported. Sit straight. Keep your spine straight. Now imagine you have like your gas knob, you have a knob which measures the body temperature, right? Which ranges from 1. 1 is the coolest and 10 is the warmest. Okay, hot is 10 and 1 is very cool. So and you can, so this is a gauge which can be turned knob up or down. Imagine that you can change your body temperature forearms, your head getting cooler by one notch, right? So I want you to start from right now from 10, 9, a little cool, 8, a little more. Start feeling the change in temperature in your body. 8 to 7 to 6, 5 is a cooler, a little cooler, 4 is still more cooler, 3 is still more cooler, 2 is feeling of complete coolness, feeling of refreshment, and 1 is completely cool. When you're finished, now count yourself up from 1 to 5. Now warm yourself. 1 was completely cool, right? So you need to have maintain a minimum body temperature. So start from 1. Now get hotter. 2, turn the knob, right? 3, 4, and 5. So when you say the number 5, you're fully awake and aware, fully present here, now in body, mind, spirit, and emotions, integrating into you. This process integrates into the very fiber of your being and will continue on the inner planes through your visions. Even now, the seeds of your future are beginning to grow. Even now, they will continue to grow moment by moment and hour by hour, and they will fill your life with more control that you have over your body. More than your body, you need more control over your emotions. So start with 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, and open your eyes and feel relaxed. This is one visualization, you know. How are you feeling, by the way? Anybody can, yeah? Refreshed? Sunan, I can see you. All right. So, you know, this, you know, at your will to change the body temperature down when you feel very hot suddenly. You start sweating because of hot flushes. You just turn the knob down. Just relax and turn the knob down from 5 to 4 to 3 to 1 and become very cool, right? And when you feel that you're very cool, you just turn the knob up. It is done in your mind. This is visualization. And visualization is done by the subconscious mind. It does not know the difference between reality and virtuality, right? So it will appear to you as if the body is actually cooled down, right? It will appear to you, and your hot flushes will be a thing of the past. Try doing that whenever you feel like. That's why first I asked, does anybody have hot flushes right now? Nobody has, right? Fortunately. But whenever you start suddenly sweating for no reason, one of the reason could be high BP. Sometimes, if you are very high BP, you will start profusely sweating, even if the AC is turned on and you're standing in front of it, right? So you can try that point of time, try this visualize. It's a very simple visualization. Anybody can do it, right? Anytime you can do it. And with this visualization, see, this is you talking to your own self, right? And reducing the temperature. And you'll feel good and you'll feel refreshed. That's all that I had for now, for today. Be happy, stay happy.
Yeah, just lastly, because Rekha could not get much time, I want Rekha to
Is she there all
her
the time?
cancer survivor story, and then
Yes,
how
yes,
you are
yes.
guiding
Because
people.
I saw Rekha moving, going out and coming
Yeah.
in. That's why I was wondering, where is Rekha? Because
So,
I can't hear see all of them together. No? That's why.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah, Rekha. Rekha, over to you.
Most of the people on the call probably know it, but yeah. So I battled cancer in 2012, and that's where precisely my interest in nutrition and food and all things that can really increase your immunity, keeps your inflammation at bay, and all things that can keep me from cancer from bay. So that's where my journey started. And what I realized through the journey of 8 years is there are a lot of things in the nutrition and the diet and the thought and the sleep which we have to look at very consciously, and which can really help us help us deal with this, and for cancer survivors or anybody, one of the largest one is the inflammation part. What are the things that really causes inflammation in your body, and what are the things which are really causing oxidations in your body is one part of the nutrition. And there are a whole lot of food that we are eating, especially the glutens that has in the pizzas and the burgers and the breads and the alcohol and the aerated drinks, and the list goes on. Same thing, I think another piece which I really realized was the sleep, which really has helped me in a very, very big way. And of course, being active. So that's where it's been 8 years. I'm very much away from it, and I keep, it's a continuous journey. So that's where I am at. But thank you so much for having me on this group. It was very, very informative, and I look for many more like this.
Rekha, are there any closing remarks that you have about nutrition? Especially, there is one thing that I want to add to Rekha. Yes, she survived and battled cancer. It was, by God's grace, it was detected in time, in initial stages. So, the journey, though was tough, it's still, at least manageable. I have worked with a lot of patients of cancer, even till the stage 3, of course, terminal stage cancer patients mostly don't survive. But I have seen one pattern which I wanted to share with each one of you. Most of the time, I try to find out reasons beyond physical body itself, right? For me, that is more important than the physical body. Yes, there are some chemical imbalances which may have led to cancer, to the continuous growth of cells. That is understandable, but then there are other emotional reasons. We NLPers, we believe cancer is caused due to regret, anger, guilt, and keeping pain and unmanaged and unresolved emotions in your body for a long time. Despite knowing that you are going through these issues, when you don't resolve them, you are bound to have, you are basically making the body more acidic. That is the environment in which cancer cells will grow. Yeah, Sunaina, you have something to tell. Unmute. Unmute. Sunaina, it's not unmute. Sunaina. Sunaina, unmute yourself.
I'm getting some voice from Sudha's, I think, phone. Sudha, please mute karna, because I think, a lot of distraction. Yeah. That's it. Thank you.
Sunaina, aapka 1 minute. Sunaina, you unmute.
Yeah, so my question to actually, you said it actually very right. It all starts in the mind. Any kind of disorder or any kind of uneasiness starts in the mind, and then it manifests in the body. You truly, I mean, Lewis,
yes.
I think most of us must have read the book also. And controlling mind, befriending mind is one thing. But nutrition, sleep, all these play a really important part. But I think some things are beyond control, and it just you just flow into it. consciously or subconsciously you flow into it, and it happens. It happens. So in fact, I was Rekha, if you could tell us, how to, everybody is consciously making an effort to, in this journey of perimenopausal or menopausal or post-menopause, 10 years, 5 years before and 5 years later, how could one get the nutrition, right nutrition? If you could just, broken down into meals, basically.
No, but I think before that, I will first address what doctor had very beautifully addressed, that while you're approaching menopause, the estrogen levels drop. But the impact of estrogen level is not only at your ovary level. Just a minute. But it is basically at your brain level, at your heart level. So, you have a lot of, so it's brain, heart, skin, lungs, and a whole lot of other things. That's first point I want to make. Second point I want to make is that while you're reaching puberty, while you're having a menstruation cycle and reaching a pregnancy and reaching a menopause, they are biological processes and they're very normal. Like what happens to us at puberty, at menopause also, it's a very natural biological process. But in the biological process, there are a whole lot of things which goes down, which we cannot deny. However, all we can do is all we can do, and we should look at what we can do, is what I want to say. And that's where our journey begins, with a relationship with food, with sleep, with exercise, and with your thought process. I completely agree with Snigdha that relationship, a power of positive relationship, is a huge thing, but which is it's a very big topic and you have to really touch upon it. But reaching to nutrition is one of the fundamental foundation thing which begins from your kitchen, and 70% of it can be really, really understood. So what is it that we need to understand? That what are the 4 basic things? We have micronutrients and we have macronutrients. But are what we eating is a balanced diet? Are we eating the balanced diet with respect to what's deficient in our body? Understanding that is also very, very important. Like when you are aging and you've crossed the age of 40, your calcium levels will go down. Why will they go down? Because your hormone systems are changing. Your hormones levels are falling down. Your thyroid functionings are going down. So there are many things like that which we have to understand. But how food, I would say 3 things that we can look at. Look at how do you reduce your inflammation. You reduce your inflammation by reducing your gluten. How do you manage that inflammation? You take good fats. Begin with your ghee, olive oils, or hemp seed oil, or a fish oil. So you have to increase your those things in your body. You have to be. So these are the 2 things which I would say, and also understanding that we Southeast Asian people are very carbohydrate-rich eaters. So we have to look at it that carbohydrate means roti, rice, and everything. While it is good, but we are having too much of carbohydrate and too much of protein, and our protein levels are very high. The fact that, the hormone which is released by a thyroid, even that is a protein. All of them are protein-based hormones. So we have to have enough amount of protein, which is plant-based or animal-based or milk-based. So, and each one's diet, like it's very difficult to say a standard diet for 15 or 20 women who are there on the call, because we have to look at their lifestyles, you have to look at what they eat, we have to look at how they're vegetarians, non-vegetarians, but fundamentally look at your inflammation, look at your carbohydrates, and look at your, so these are the things that will help you a lot. And we can always take one-on-one and we can really talk about it and go deep dive into it.
Yeah, basically, so Naina, as far as there is a lot of brain fog also while you are menopausing, perimenopausal and menopausal times, post-menopausal, a lot of brain fog. Brain fog is getting confused over small things which were very easy to do earlier, but now suddenly there's a lot of confusion over smallest things. So that anxiety increases because of that. I'm not able to find my car keys. I kept it here only. And I am trying to think and I cannot remember. So that's called the brain fog. So we basically, of course, we use certain food for the brain, which is generally walnuts. All right, walnuts is something which looks also like 2 hemispheres of the brain. So walnut is a consumption that I think women should increase. Post 40-45. All right, all these essential oils give a lot of relaxation. Lavender oil, essential oil, just put it on a drop of lavender oil. These are oils, essential oils, which give you a feeling of relaxation. And flax seeds. Having flax seeds, all of these are brain nutrients basically. See, we need to supply oxygen to the brain to be able to think and work better, right? Already, what happens is with aging, certain nerve cells keep dying. So whatever information, the memories which are stored in the nerve cell, their connection also dies. So that's why we are able to remember part of the memory, but rest of the part we are not able to remember. So we can renew the connection. One which way I told you, body and mind connection is also useful here. What one can do is, for example, if you're having a lot of dementia type of issues, that not remembering, not doing that, start working on the lower body exercises. When you exercise your lower body, it has the positive effect on your mind also, because body and mind are connected. So here, when you're exercising the body, the mind also, the connections are restored. There is, of course, the neurons have not died. The connection between them is not there. That's why you're not able to remember everything. Some part you're able to remember because everything is not stored in one nerve cell, right? So when we exercise our lower body, then what happens is, in turn, we exercise our mind also. The neurons, it's basically said, no, the neurons which stay together, fire together, stay together. So the neurons which fire, how I got to fire the neurons is by activating them. How do we activate? By doing the body-mind connection, means doing physical exercise. So specifically, you'll find older people, when you observe your in-laws or those parents of that level, 70s, 80s, so you will see them, they get changes. When the way they walk, that changes with age. So anytime you've noticed any of your elder grandparents have a problem with the gait, that is, they used to walk very steadily earlier. Now the way of walking has changed. Tell them to exercise their lower body. Suddenly they will remember, have a better memory. So they will remember lost things. This is a very actual gait changes. Suddenly way of walking changes. That's Shivani, we have not heard from you at all.
No, it's okay, because I just wanted to ask Rekha, now you have come up with the hemp seed. So can you elaborate the nutrition in that, and what are the things we can use from hemp seed?
Hemp seeds, yeah. Rekha.
You reminded me. Okay, so basically the hemp seed oil is also a seed oil, and like we have olive oil and like we have the other good oils, this is another plant-based oil and plant-based proteins. So they are very rich in omega-3 and omega-6, which is very much a homegrown plant, and it's a plant-based omega. Like we have fish-based omegas, this is a plant-based omega.
Yeah.
Okay. I think it's time everybody is leaving now. It's already.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. So thank you for joining and giving your time, Rekha and Snigdha, as usual. So thank
Shivani, this time we couldn't hear you. You are a nutrigenomics expert. I think we got to keep on session, especially for you.
Yeah, we'll keep on that genetic testing, like how you are. Yeah, we'll take that.
Thank you so much, each one of you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Snigdha. Thank you, Shivani, and thank you, Rekha, for the useful info. And it was, I think, time very well spent.
Yes.
And a lot of useful info. Thank you so much.
Sunana, good to see you.
Same here, Sudha.
Thank you, guys.
Good to see Rekha after long.
This looks like, actually, to me, it looks more like a reunion. I have not seen Sunaina for ages, even on Facebook.
Yeah.
I have not seen her.
I must tell you, we moved back to Mumbai. We are in Powai now.
Is it?
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
Good that Sunaina, she has joined that WOW group. So you are, at least we'll be in touch, at least over posts.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Pre-COVID. Yeah. Thank you so much.
Sudha, this was your first time. Sudha, this was your first time attending a webinar with us. How was the experience? Did you find it worthwhile?
No, it was really very, very good. Kafi acha. Yes.
I hope people find worth for all this. Each one of us, I mean, the Dr. Bindu, it was difficult, telling us she very much wanted about 1 hour.
It's a very good mix of mental and physical, both the aspects. It was a really very good mix of this. Because in BP, I can feel what the, like, you know, how important the mental health is also. Very important. And if you are empty nester, mental health is very, very important. So next,
Empty nester syndrome is something I think we take it. Each one of us will be facing sooner or later. So
okay.
Yes.
So thank you so much. Yeah. Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you, Sunaina.
Pleasure to be part of the group. Pleasure. Yeah. Thank you so much. Bye.
Sure.